Retired homicide detective. I've interviewed thousands of people, from serial killers to ministers. Welcome to the interview room. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the interview room. It's so great to see everybody. They're playing my song. So a couple things tonight. I'm so grateful each and every one of you are here this evening, and that the things that we're going to talk about this evening, of course, all parties are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. These are strictly our opinions. They are not evidence in a court of law in any way, shape, or form. And of course, as you can tell, I'm a big football fan. I'd rather listen to this. So tell me where you're at this evening. And I am still in the Palmetto State in South Carolina. For those of you that don't know, I was actually born in North Carolina, and then of course, my dad, being in the Marine Corps at the time, got transferred out to Hawaii. And that's pretty much where I did my childhood, out there at the Marine Corps Air Station in Kaneohe and Kailua area. So aloha to all of our Hawaiian folks out there. We love you guys. And I kind of grew up with that Hawaiian spirit. And then eventually my father retired at Camp Pendleton in 1975, a couple of weekends ago. And ultimately, I did the rest of my life out there until we moved again. And as you know, Karen and I are traveling this great country in this Airstream behind me. And it's allowed us to go and do and see the actual locations of where these incidences are taking place. Well, Alex Murdaugh, man, oh man, have you guys been following this trial? I got to tell you, it's been a doozy. And, this case, a couple of things. I've approached this case, and we're going to see Karen tonight too later on, where she's going to come up in a little while, and she's going to give us an update. But until that moment, she's asked me to kind of lay out my observations in some of the early on investigative things that took place. These types of situations, when you see them starting to unfold in the court, it is really interesting how DA gets this case file and then they start laying out things. But remember, I talked about a couple of technologies that would probably come out. One of them was Gladiator. It's really kind of behind the scenes. There's a lot more that isn't even discussed in the courtroom because it's a box. And the capabilities of this technology is absolutely amazing. So what we saw over the last testimony of this week from the CAS team member from the FBI, he talked about driving in that area and basically mapping out the cell phone towers and information in relationship to that. That is the Gladiator technology. And then, of course, the other stuff that we've mentioned here many times on the interview room is a technology called Celebrite. And in a nutshell, what Celebrite is, when you go to AT&T, for an example, or T-Mobile or Verizon or any of the other carriers, and you say, hey, I want to keep my phone number, but I want all my stuff moved from this phone to this phone. Well, there's what they call a UFED box behind the counter there, and they basically connect both phones to this box, and this box wires and transfers all that data over. Well, that technology is Celebrite. And for law enforcement, that technology, once you have a search warrant, they have a different box that does the exact same thing, only on steroids. And then there are parts of that tool, there's software that comes with it, where it can do, mapping. It can do all kinds of really, really cool stuff. It can, when I say mapping, meaning it can pull photos, it can pull phone numbers, it can pull contact information, and just a steroid amount of information that can be brought in. It was actually that company that broke the terrorist phone years ago, where the password could not be identified. So it's good stuff, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. The tools that are available to law enforcement today, and we've done a whole podcast about that, actually, even in the Moscow murders. I talked about that at length. So Tuesday's Valentine's Day. Don't forget to take your partner out for Valentine's Day. I'm taking my sweetheart out. This is the first she's hearing about it because I've kept it a secret, but I'm going to kidnap her for that evening. And so don't forget, to have those that you love around you that day. Man, oh man, I'll tell you, one of the first things you learn in Homicide 101, and that is, thank you, that is, go back to the beginning, to the very beginning. Always go back to the crime scene, go back to the statements, and pay close attention to the minutia details. So this case has really been going on for, almost 2 years. And there are just so many curveballs, knuckleballs, fastballs, coming in every different direction that you really can't keep up with it. But I will tell you, I'm going to pitch a podcast. It's called the Murdaugh Murders. And it's a young lady, a journalist here in South Carolina. If you have not heard those podcasts, get over there and listen to them. They're fantastic. And she has a wealth of information, and it's constantly being updated. She sticks to the facts, and she's just, I think her name is Wendy. And I want to give a shout out to Wendy tonight because I've been listening to her stuff the last, 2 days here. And I got to be honest with you, that young lady is onto something. And hopefully you get a chance to go over there and support Mandy. That's who it is. Mandy. I'm sorry. Did I say Wendy? Thank you. Mandy. Yes, here is her name. Thank you. I am so sorry, Mandy, for messing that up. Okay. Yes, thank you. Yeah, and we're going to talk about that. Boots and shark teeth, mud boots and shark teeth. Love it. Absolutely love it. We are going to talk about the statement. And I'm going to point out some things tonight that I have to give a shout out to SLED and the investigators that were sitting in that car, even though as humble as it looked, this was within, hours after the murders, where they're sitting in that car. And I can tell you, I can't tell you how many times I've sat in a car like that, but, we didn't have video. We had tape recorders. And then, of course, we would take them downtown and then, put them in an interview room. And that's why the name of this YouTube channel is The Interview Room. Because I can tell you, I have a lot of memories with a lot of suspects. But what I want to tell you about what this SLED agent did was very, very, very great. Masterful work. Masterful work. What he did is he locked in Mr. Murdaugh for eternity. He locked him in. And I'll tell you, man, I was watching that and just could not get enough of it. And so what I want to do is point out some of those subtleties. I want to point out some of those subtleties that he brought into the conversation, i.e. Mr. Murdaugh, and that he tried to manipulate the movement of what I'll call wordsmithing the conversation. I'll tell you, I'm gonna point them out tonight. You guys we're all gonna see it together. And if you'll notice on the thumbnail that I put up, you look at his eyes. And what he was doing constantly was what we used to call reflection. So he would speak and he'd look and he'd watch the investigator, and then he would reflect back up here as to where he needed to go in the conversation. But this investigator was just dynamic in luring him down that path. And the sheriff in the back hit him a couple of times with, I'm going to say, knuckleball on the outside of the plate. And Alex buckled just for a second. So before I get into that, I want to thank our mods, Miss Sophia, Maui Girl, Teresa M, and Mimi J2. We love you. We're grateful for you. And we're thankful that each and every one of you in the audience is here this evening. So I'm going to do this in a couple of ways. I'm going to do, a start, stop, start, stop. And we can discuss this together. So, Alex Murdaugh, it's time to, let's see what you say here. Okay, you guys ready? All right, so let me tee this up here, and then we're going to go forward, and I'm going to stop it as we go, like I just mentioned. Okay, just a second. Move my notes. Okay, right from the get-go, look at how he's looking at what the detective is writing down. All right, so in an interview, one of the things that you learn watching this not only body language, but the eyes are, as they say, are the windows to the soul, right? Well, I don't know if there's even a window here, but I can tell you this: those eyes are dead giveaways when you're worried about something. Okay, so even before the interview starts, he's already starting to look around to see what his playing field's going to be. And if you'll notice that, or if you remember for generations, the Murdaugh family, solicitors in this area, which basically, the DA, the elected DA, the fact that he already is in a position of influence. He's been a civil attorney. He's been a prosecutor. His family is well known. They've been prosecutors. So he's starting this interview off in a very, what he believes to be a commanding position. The interviewee, or the interviewer, the detective, is just as cool as a cucumber. And it's just like another day, at the office, sitting in the car, and he's gonna lower his stature to allow Alec to run. And the whole purpose of this interview this night was to lock him in. Lock him in. Because what suspects forget sometimes is every lie is evidence. But here you have a situation where he's just discovered his deceased wife. He's just discovered his deceased son. Not only that, he's also mentioned that his son's cranium and body parts are laying next to him, i.e., right? And this is his response on this evening and his discovery. So I'm going to let it run for a minute, and then I'm going to stop.
All right, Mr. Murdaugh, state your full name for me, please.
Richard Alexander Murdaugh.
And spell your last name so I get it correct.
Murdaugh.
All right. And you go by Alec?
Yes, sir.
And date of birth?
May 27th, 1968.
And a good phone number for you.
803-942-1227.
All right, sir. And sir, what was your name?
Yeah, Danny Henderson.
Okay.
All right. Now, there's a couple of things going on here. We used to call this Sod, some other dude, right? Now, they're both lawyers. And whenever you have somebody who may have guilty knowledge, what they will typically do is bring a friend. And as you're talking to them, now in this case, both lawyers are going to be there because he's representing him. And but in other cases, what will happen is during the interview, he'll say, well, if you don't believe me, go ask, Sod out in the lobby who's waiting on the couch out there, and he'll tell you the exact same thing. So in this particular case, Sod is in the back seat. Okay. Now, that tells us a whole bunch right there because he had to call him and get him there. All right. Not that that's a bad thing. I'm just saying you've just discovered your family deceased and, you're going to be talking about it. So, of course, you're going to need your lawyer, right?
All right. As I stated, I'm David Owen in Lower Rutland with Colleton County, and I'm with SLED. I hate to have to do this.
I
but
understand.
yeah,
I totally
yeah,
understand.
yeah.
So you don't have any problem
Yeah.
with it.
So just start at the top. Take your time.
Like when I came back here,
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what I will call that is a set point. What he wants to do is talk about, tell us what's going on here this evening. And Alec set points it by asking a question to a question.
I mean, I pulled up and I could see him, and I knew something was bad. I ran out. I knew it was really bad.
So he pulls up, he could see them, he knew it was bad, he knew it was really bad. And now the emotion is going to start here. But let's qualify that, shall we?
My boy over there, I could see it was.
I'm so sorry.
And I could see his brain on. And I ran over to Maggie, and actually, I think I tried to turn Paul over first. I tried to turn him over.
Okay, so the first thing he does is he says he ran, he sees Paul, he sees this horrible sight. He runs over to Maggie and then he corrects that to, I think I tried to turn him over. Well, I did turn him over. And this is the first introduction of evidence.
And I don't know, I figured it out. His cell phone popped out of his pocket.
Okay, first introduction of evidence. Why is this significant? Because we've now heard testimony that cell phones have been moved from the bodies, Maggie's phone. And of course, we heard testimony from the investigators that the screen had gone into, horizontal mode, and then back. So, of course, I've not seen family victims in my experience who've seen this tragedy, this amount of horror, that the cell phone becomes significant. In fact, most of the time, and I'm not saying, people, we all deal with trauma differently, but, all of a sudden your son is deceased in front of you. There are body parts laying around him. You try to roll him over and his cell phone pops out. And what's interesting here is he said he wants to do something with it.
I started to try to do something with it, thinking.
Okay, I'm going to play that back. All right. So first of all, he tried to do something with it. Well, all right. And so the investigator, you'll notice he's just taking this in. He's just taking this in like, go, man, keep going. Because, your emotional response to you discovering your son, it's bad, it's real bad. You just pull up. And all of a sudden you see the trauma that you see. And, I might as well pick up his phone and try to do something with it. And it gets better.
Maybe, but then I put it back down really quickly. Then I went to my wife, and I could see.
Did you touch Maggie at all?
I did. I touched them both.
Okay.
I tried to take, I tried to do it as limited as possible, but I tried to take their pulse on both of them.
Okay, now watch his eyes. Look at his eyes right there. He is looking at the investigator to see if he's buying the soggy bread being sold here. Can everybody see that? This is just my opinion. If I was sitting in that car, because this sled agent's he's just like cool as it can be, but you'll notice he's not looking at him, and he's doing that on purpose. Because later on they went back and watched this. And what he's doing, right? I mean, is a checks and balance. Okay, is he getting this? Is he getting this? All right. See his eyes.
And I called 911 pretty much right away. And
I called 911 pretty much right away. Those are very interesting words.
And she was very good.
He compliments the dispatcher in all this trauma.
I talked to her. I told her I was going to get off the phone to call some family members. I did that.
What family members did you call?
I called my brother Randy, and I called my brother John. And I tried to call a little boy, real good friend that's right around the corner from here, but I didn't get him.
Okay, so now I'm going to go into a personal grab here for a second. When we lost our son, I can tell you the moment my phone rang. I can also tell you I went into a spin. And even at the time, I was working homicide. And our son died in an accident. I can tell you the moment my phone rang, I can tell you I did not call all of his friends at all in any way, shape, or form. Now, I'm not saying, that's right or wrong, or he didn't have, the same experience as me. I get it. Not a problem. Right. But why are you calling Paul's friends when you're standing over your son's dead body?
What all was around Paul when you walked up?
Blood.
Anything else?
All right. So now this is really cool. Take a look at a guy in the back. You'll notice where the investigator went here for a minute. He just threw curveball outside corner. And I'm going to move this back here for a second because I want you to see the body language of the guy in the back when he goes to, let's get minutia details about what's around the crime scene. Watch the guy in the back lean towards the other deputy and then look at the agent who's asking questions.
And I tried to call.
Let me back it up here for a second.
And I tried to call a little boy, real good friend that's right around the corner from here, but I didn't get him.
And notice that guy is in the back seat looking at what the detective is writing on her notebook. So what they're doing is they're taking messaging in. This is significant because later on, Murdaugh gets all of his attorney friends in the same room and they talk strategy. Now, this is really interesting because what they're doing is they're gathering intelligence for a later conversation.
What all was around Paul when you walked up?
Blood.
Anything else?
There it is.
I mean, there were some body things, yes, sir.
I mean, like any other evidence. I know you said the phone fell out the pocket, but did you see anything else that didn't belong or shouldn't belong or that wasn't part of Paul?
No, sir, not the, no, sir.
How about Maggie?
No, sir.
You didn't see anything around them? What made you come out here tonight?
I went to, my mom's a late stage Alzheimer's patient. My dad's in the hospital. My mom gets anxious when she does. I went to check on them and Maggie. Maggie's a dog lover and she fools with the dogs. And I knew she'd gone to the kennel. I was at the house. I left the house and went to my mom's for just a little while. Tried to call her when I left, texted her, no response.
So he's laying out a lot of what obviously the defense became. Because we've heard it, we're hearing it now, little bits and pieces. But I'm going to point out something here tonight in a little bit that I think they missed.
When I got back to the house
See, that was a pause to think. And the investigator just
was
letting
obviously nobody was in there. So I figured they're still up here fooling around. Paul was gonna be getting set up to plant. Our sunflower seeds got sprayed and died, and he was refiguring to plant the sunflower seeds.
Okay.
So I came back up here.
So, Kelly, let me tell you something real fast. It's pronounced Murdaugh because if you'll watch the beginning of this video, that's how he pronounced his own name. But I thank you so much for bringing that to my attention.
And I drove up and saw and called.
Had Maggie and Paul been arguing over anything?
No.
What was their relationship like?
Wonderful.
Wonderful. How about yours and Maggie's?
Wonderful. I mean, I'm sure we had little things here and there, but we had a wonderful marriage, wonderful relationship.
And yours and Paul's relationship?
As good as it could be.
That's an interesting comment. As good as it could be. What say you? Because Mallory Beach, circumstances were going on, a whole bunch of other stuff. And if you look at Danny in the back, I guess that's his attorney. He's looking at him like, well, that's an interesting comment. If you look at Alec now, looking over here at the investigator, they're making eye contact.
How old was Paul?
22.
Okay. You know his date of birth?
I do. April 11th, 96 is his brother's. April 14th, 99 is Paul's.
Now, what's interesting is he gave his other son's birthday first. When we're talking about Paul.
What's Maggie's full name?
So is this a favorite son situation? I don't know. When the investigator asked me my son's date of birth, I knew right away, and we have 4 kids. I didn't give him the other 3. Just saying.
Margaret Brandstetter, Murdaugh,
And her date of birth, sir?
September 15th, 1968.
Have y'all been having any problems out here? Trespassers,
None
people
that,
breaking in?
none that I know of. The only thing that what comes to my mind is my son Paul was in a boat wreck a couple years ago, and there's been he was charged with being arrested for being the driver. There's been a lot of negative publicity about that, and there's been a lot of people online just really vile stuff. But when Paul's out and about, I mean, people routinely, I don't think I know the full story, so I don't think they give it to me, but I mean, he's been punched.
Now, I don't know how to, read into that because he was there the night of the incident at the hospital. And so he's now kind of laying out, well, there are a lot of people online that are upset about this Mallory Beach incident. And maybe this is a motive. So what he's doing here is he's going to offer a couple of different motives of why this thing would go down. And in the interim, he's also going to distance himself from any physical evidence that would connect the two.
And hit and just attacked a lot. So, but I mean, nothing like this.
Yeah. Any one person in particular or group of people
I don't know.
that you could think of?
Not that I know, no, sir.
That's a cell.
Has he, other than being assaulted, has he received any direct threats related to the boat accident?
Oh, yes. All the time he gets
recently?
threats. Yes, sir. I mean, he gets them all the time.
Okay.
He gets them all the time.
What kind of,
I'm gonna kick your ass, I've never been privy firsthand,
Is that through social media or?
No, ma'am.
in person?
It's mostly like if he goes out places is what he goes out like somewhere. He's in college, so if he goes out is what I understand.
Okay.
And I can find out better details from some of his younger friends on that.
Who's his best friend?
Now, that's interesting because there he's going to try to control a narrative. He's going to interject himself to all of his friends and find out details about these alleged threats. Which obviously, his son is deceased, and right now you have two homicide investigators sitting in the car. And why is he going to dig into this? Let the authorities do their thing. I've never had family victims. They start focusing on the victims and let the authorities start figuring out the whys.
His best friend in Colombia is Will's Chapman, Will Loving.
Now, one of the other things I want you to recognize here about his personality, and I know people, are criticizing about how his name's pronounced. Quite frankly, I don't care how his name's pronounced. If it's Murdaugh, Alex, I don't care. Okay, he's in custody for killing two people. Okay, and the court's he's going through the court system right now. Let them sort it out. What I do care, though, is how he treats people. And in this incident, you can see where he's trying to command the narrative here. And one of the responses that he's going to give this sheriff in the back seat is going to tell you a whole bunch about how he treats other people?
Bobby Boyle, Will Chapman, and Paul were getting ready to move into a house together in Columbia.
You said Will Chapman and Will Loving? Is that-
Wills with an S,
okay.
Chapman, and Will with an L, Loving.
Okay.
Around here, his best friends are clearly Nolan Tootin and Rogan Gibson.
And what he's doing here is he's planting narrative. Planting narrative.
Tootin, Nolan Tootin.
Yes, sir.
Did you see him look down at what he's writing? He's making sure that his narrative is getting heard right there. Look at his eyes. They're down at his clipboard. And then you have the other gentleman in the back who keeps looking over at the sheriff, making sure the narrative is correct.
And what was the other one? I'm sorry.
Rogan Gibson.
His eyes are giving him away.
Have you talked with any of these guys tonight?
You know what the old saying is, you know, this lies all the time, but these never lie. I've always been a firm believer of that. Also, you can see this sometimes pulsating. You can see the cheeks start to move sometimes.
Out with Nolan, yes, sir.
Is he
There's a cell.
out here?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I tried to call Rogan, was one of the people he's the boy that I told you lives
Okay,
around the corner.
okay.
That's very, he's just a good, helpful young man. You mind if I open the door really quickly?
Go right ahead. Do what you need to do. So is there anybody that you can think of that we need to talk to tonight? Is there a name that comes to mind?
I mean, I can't tell you anybody that I'm overly suspicious of off the top of my head.
Okay.
I mean, this is such a stupid thing. I'm even embarrassed to say it.
Okay, another narrative of Sod. Right? Some other dude. He knows it's a stupid thing. He's embarrassed to say it. I mean, however, I might as well throw the guy under the bus while I'm here tonight.
But it just didn't make any sense. I just hired a guy out here, and he wasn't cutting the mustard, but I hadn't told him this yet. Paul's been working with him a lot. He killed the sunflower seeds in our dove field just recently, which is why Paul was here doing this. He told Paul a story the other day about how when he was in high school, he got in a fight with some black guys. And the FBI undercover team observed him fighting those guys and put him on an undercover team with 3 Navy SEALs. And that their job was to kill radical Black Panthers. And they did that from Myrtle Beach to Savannah.
Okay, and the Oscar goes to, right? Let's see. Susan Smith tried that one a while ago. Didn't work in South Carolina then. I still don't think it worked in this one, but we'll see.
Now, I really don't think this guy, is probably the person, but that's just so freaking.
Yeah, that's kind of far-fetched
It's
story.
weird. But he was off today.
Okay.
He took his daddy to the doctor.
So the guy's not working that day, so therefore he must be in the circle of suspects.
What's his name?
CB Rowe.
ROWE?
Yeah, and I sent him a message to text me earlier today
Of course he did.
about the sunflowers, and he called me back when I was on the way to my mom's house.
Did you talk to him at that time?
Briefly, I was on the phone with a lawyer friend of mine named Chris Wilson from Bamberg, so I told him I'd call him back tomorrow, see him in the morning.
When you briefly talked to Mr. Rowe, what was his demeanor or attitude? Or
I mean, it seemed normal. I mean, I asked him about the sunflowers, and so, you know, I mean, I'm sure he's a little bit.
where does he live?
I don't exactly know. Somewhere in in Bronson.
Okay. Do you have his phone number?
I do.
You got it with you, please, sir?
Okay. So this may be an interesting observation here, but I'll let you guys tell me what you think. I want you to look at the wallpaper on the phone that he pulls out. And I did a little research on it because that wallpaper looked really familiar. And you know how when you reset your phone, the manufacturer gives you 3 choices of a screen? Tell me what you think.
I do. You know, but I do think him and Paul got along pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
That's just really, really weird. All right.
Okay, you're going to get a better look at it too here in a minute.
CB.
And this is called the skills screen.
Right there, in the lap.
Here, I know he called me. So that. Okay.
843-540-9335.
You need to get that phone on the charge, Alec, if you can.
Is that an iPhone?
Yes, sir.
Watch your leg for a second, please.
Thank you.
When did he tell that story to Paul?
Sometime last week.
Okay.
So this is 1 o'clock in the morning, and if he's never changed that, background, set it to a family picture. I mean, it's a loving father. Then your phone, the manufacturer, Apple gives you 3 choices of screens. And they're automatic, they just come up. So I
Sometime last week.
Interesting.
My son Paul actually.
Well, that was a good shot right there. You could see it, but we're going to get into it here in a minute.
And I really
Put it on his
do
lap.
not think, on all honesty, that it's him, but I know y'all got to check it out. But Paul was so taken aback by it that he sent, I'll find it, I got it on my phone. He recorded him saying bits and pieces of it.
Okay.
No.
I think if you look at the guy in the back seat, I had a, kind of chuckle here for a second. Doesn't he look like, like, really? Okay, we're running with this one.
But for all his weirdness, I mean, I do think they got along.
So the murder of his wife and his son and this individual who's hanging out with Navy SEALs, taking out Black Panthers, that's a lot of weirdness for one night.
Okay.
Pretty good.
How long had he been working here?
I guess about 3 or 4 pay periods, so 8 weeks, a couple months.
Okay.
Okay, right there. This is a great one. He is looking to make sure his narrative is being sold here. There's 5 steps to a sale: prospect, personalize, promote, create, and close. Okay. He's doing all 5 of these. He's looking over like, well, that's you know, I got my prospect here. I'm personalized with him. I'm promoting it. I'm creating it. Time to go for the close. And where does he go for the close? He goes for, when I say the close, he goes for the shotgun.
Going back to the boat incident,
Oh, boat incident. Look at his eyes. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. We were just talking about, the Navy SEALs.
anybody on that boat really have a hard on for Paul that you would think would come after him, or know of any direct threats from people on the boat?
I don't know of any direct threats between any of the people on the boat
Okay.
specifically, but I do think there's been a small amount of yip yap between a couple of them, but not recently.
Okay.
Most of this was stuff from people that Paul didn't really know.
Okay.
So Saad, some other dude. Most of the stuff going on from around Paul was from total strangers. So therefore, it could be a total stranger that took him out. So you guys need to start going and looking for that total stranger.
It was some people that he knew distantly, but more times than not, when I learned about it, it was somebody that he didn't know.
Okay.
It's like, for example, he went out in Charleston a couple months ago, came back, he got a black eye. And, he can't defend himself right now because he has these charges. So, Paul was a real tough man's man.
Mm-hmm.
He would just...
He would defend himself, but he hadn't been.
That's right. But
How was he handling that case? Looming over everybody.
This is an interesting response.
as far as what?
How was he
As far as what?
handling it?
I've never been prouder of him than the way he has handled the pressures and the adversity in that situation. I think I've told Danny that before.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody know who Danny is? You got a blood alcohol level 0.28. You've got another life taken from that boat accident. And, Paul's a man's man, so he would have stuck up for himself, but he couldn't because of that boat accident. You getting charged and all that stuff, getting sued and all that stuff. And the guy in the back seat, that's Danny in the back seat then. Yeah. Yeah, he's told Danny all about it.
I mean, Paul is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful kid. He can do almost anything. He gets along with almost anybody.
Do y'all store any weapons out here?
Okay, now we're going to get into some sticky area because a couple of things that he's done here. He's introduced the cell phone. He's introduced a narrative of Saad. And we've heard a lot of testimony this week from folks where he tried to, intimidate them into changing their narrative. But here is going to be an interesting one because right now he knows that a weapon has been used, but he doesn't necessarily know if it's his guns. I don't know how he knew it was a shotgun that killed his son, but he introduces a shotgun into the conversation. Okay, so I'm getting a message real fast that my internet's going to fly here for a second, so I got to plug it in real fast. So you guys watch this for a second.
We don't store them, but they're frequently out here because there was a shotgun. There was a 12-gauge shotgun out here. I'll have to find out exactly when that was. I think it got put up, but I'm not positive.
What did that shotgun look like?
It was a camouflage. I want to say it was a Benelli or maybe a Beretta. I can't remember which brand it is. But I don't think it was out here
Okay.
recently. But I'm not positive.
And the shotgun that you had when deputies pulled up, where did that come from?
I went to the house and I got a gun. Probably overreacting, but.
And was that when you pulled up and saw them?
No, I came out and I called 911 first.
Mm-hmm.
Talked to them for a little while, and then I told her.
Told her.
That I was going to go to the house.
Okay.
And that I would let authorities know when they got here that I had a gun.
Okay. Do you happen to have a list of all guns?
I can make one. I don't have one, but
Yeah.
I can make one.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying, so we could compare if that shotgun was out here and now it's missing.
Absolutely.
Try to figure it out. And where we want to do.
Guns.
Yeah. Shotguns, rifles.
Pistols.
Any rifles?
Yes, sir.
What kind of rifles?
All kinds.
Yeah.
All kinds.
Okay, for obvious reasons, we know that's extremely significant to introduce a shotgun like this because he put his hands on it. And what's interesting is he slips up though, because he says he tells the dispatcher after he called 911 when the agent here calls him out on it, that he told the dispatcher that he had a gun in his hand, a shotgun. I went back and I listened to the 911 tape. In fact, I'm going to play it at the end here. And I didn't hear it, but you guys tell me. And he's also trying to plant that, the two shooter theory. Everybody's like, well, how could there be two guns? Easily, if you have a sling on the AR, that's not a problem. Just put it over you, boom, use shotgun, come up with the sling on the other gun, boom. You've got two weapons involved. It's not an issue. I'm still having an issue here with my internet, though. I don't want to lose you guys. So I'm going to be working on that while we listen to the rest of this.
You name it, across the board, we have them.
Okay.
And all of them we have are, in a hunting room in our house.
What was their schedule today? When did they get home?
My son works for my brother, and he was coming home to deal with the sunflowers. He got here. He got here pretty early because he and I rode around looking at everything for a good little while, probably 45 minutes to an hour. Maggie had things she did in Charleston, and she had a doctor's appointment in Charleston, and she got back here. It was fairly late.
Was it dark yet when Paul got home?
No, Paul got home early.
Early, okay. So before dinner time? before
Oh, yes, ma'am.
lunchtime? Or
No, ma'am.
okay.
What brother does Paul work for?
John Marvin,
And what does Paul do for him?
everything.
Just handyman?
Yes,
type?
sir.
Okay, so I thought that was really interesting that he very clearly brings a weapon into this. And now, of course, we're hearing testimony about one gun being missing and the second gun there, the shotgun. I don't know. And the gunshot residue, all of that evidence. Well, you know, the GSR evidence is taken care of by this kind of conversation here. Of course, you're going to hear from the defense. They're going to say, well, of course he had gunshot residue on his hands or whatever, the clothing, etc. He was holding a gun. In fact, he even told the police that he was holding a gun that night. My question was, how did he know a shotgun was utilized to kill Paul? That's the question I have. And later on, you know, the investigator could have asked him that quick question, right?
Was it unusual for Maggie to feed the dogs this time of night or check on them?
Oh, no. I mean, she played with those dogs all the time. And it's especially common for her to, you know, she's been gone for a while, to come and let especially two of them out to run.
Okay, so she pretty regularly comes out here in the evenings.
Very regularly.
Okay.
She comes out here a lot.
Do you have any cameras on your property?
I have deer cameras, but none, you know, around up here
Where are they at?
on different deer stands.
Okay, so deep in the woods.
Well, not necessarily deep in the woods. Some of them are in fields, and
Okay.
but I don't. There's none that, you know, are near here.
Okay.
What doctor's appointment? What doctor did Maggie see today?
I forget the guy's name. Maggie's been having trouble with her. She's been having trouble with her stomach and her tooth. I'm not positive. It was sort of a routine visit, and I can't remember. She told me the name of him, and I can't. I want to say Gordine
Okay.
is who I think she saw.
So was she back home around supper time? Or 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock?
He's thinking about that answer.
I don't think she got back quite that early. I think she got back a little bit later than that.
Okay.
Still thinking.
What did you do?
He's looking over for confirmation. I'm going to sell this.
Were you at the office or?
Nope, I was home. I came home. Paul and I messed around. I was up at the house. I laid down, took a nap on the couch, probably, I don't know, 25, 30 minutes. I got up. I called Maggie.
You notice whenever people get into minutia details about rolling your son over, I don't know. I figured it out. Taking a nap, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, I don't know. And look at his eyes, how he's looking at the investigator. Okay. There are 5 steps to a sale. Remember, prospect, personalize, promote, create, and close. Okay. What he's doing is he's given a closing here in front of a later jury, if it ever got that far. In his mind, even I would submit to you at this point.
Didn't get an answer, and I left to go to my mom's. She had said she might ride with me, but she normally doesn't.
See, whenever he puts something out there, he looks over to make sure that he's also able to verify the type of notes taking place. So these are very subtle human behaviors,
I go over there.
yet obvious when you've sat in rooms with hundreds of these guys.
And I think I texted her.
I think I texted her. He's got a lot of detail.
And she's very good about answering the phone, so that was odd, or calling me back. So that was odd, but it wasn't that big a deal.
Now, what time was that?
What time was what?
That you sent
Now, see, that was kind of an irritating question for him.
her a text message?
Okay, right there, you get a clear shot now of his phone. Is that a reset screen? I know what it. I know Apple. They give you 3 choices, like I mentioned, and that's one of the screens.
All right. I texted her at 9:08, going to check on M, be right back. And then I texted her at 9:47. That must be when I started to come back. I think I called her before that, but let me make sure. Pretty sure that I called her 9:45, and then I tried Paul. And then, no, I think that was riding. I think that might have been ride.
Well, thank you, Jeremiah. Appreciate you being here. And good observation.
Over there. $10:03. I mean, my calls are right here.
Yeah.
So, obviously this is when I, at 10:06,
There you go. I must be reading a lot into this because that's the reset screen. By the way, I put those 2 pictures in there just for Jeremiah.
can I have a piece?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Take the call.
Anybody else want some gum?
There it is again.
You don't have any water, do you, Danny?
You can clearly see that phone has some, either A, he never did anything with his family, i.e. put a wallpaper or anything like that. But that definitely looks like a reset screen. You tell me what you guys think in the chat. What do you think?
I'm sorry, I don't need it.
It's sitting on his lap right there.
If you, behind Danny's head is case of.
Let's see here. Seems like a nervous tick. Yeah, Texas Spitfire. Love that name and thank you.
It's not a big deal.
Yeah, I got some right here.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
I'm sure we're going to have much more questions.
I'm available at, you let me know.
What
he is real interested in those notes. You see that? I used to watch attorneys while sitting at the table during murder trials. They'd walk over and they'd kind of casually walk by the prosecutor's desk just like that. And they'd look down to see where the prosecutor was headed in their conversations.
What's another number in case I can't get you on your cell?
I don't have a house phone.
Okay.
An office number. I can give you my brother's cell phones.
Sod, right? In case you need to get hold of my brother. After all, it's my wife and my son who's murdered out here in the field. You might as well call my brother.
All right. What's Randy's?
Okay, Randy's is 803-943-8881.
And John's?
John Marvin's is 843-321-5508.
And you said your dad's in the hospital?
Yes, sir.
Which hospital? Charleston or
Savannah, Candler, St. Joseph's.
is he doing okay or what's?
He's having a really, really hard time. He's got a lot going on. You know, he's doing okay given everything, but he's got a lot going on.
About Maggie's family, where are they?
Somerville.
Have you been in touch with them tonight?
Contacted, yes. I had my brother call Bart, the wife of his sister, and I mean.
Now that's an interesting observation as well. I mean, he says that they're tight, and maybe Karen can come up. Karen, when you get a chance, come on up. They're tight as a family, yet he didn't even call Maggie's parents or family himself. He had his other family members do it. I mean, it seems like he could have picked up the phone and done that. I mean, he was about ready to call Paul's friends that evening, just saying.
The husband of Maggie's sister, so that they could go and tell Maggie's parents. I felt like they needed to hear it in person. And they are going there and calling me. So they must not be there yet.
Maggie's parents in Somerville?
Yes. And her mom just had a knee replacement surgery.
Even if her parents were elderly, you would think the husband would want to tell them firsthand.
And her dad
not his brother.
Really has trouble getting around nowadays.
I mean, that's just my opinion as a, somebody that's seen a lot of people tell other people what's going on. I could be
Do you
wrong.
have any other children?
I do. I have a 24-year-old.
That's right. You said it. What's his name?
Buster. Well, Richard Alexander Jr.
Okay. He goes by Buster.
He goes by Buster.
Is he here tonight?
He's on his way.
Okay.
Okay, Karen, so far, what do you think? What's your opinion? What's going on here?
You know, I am loving all the comments in chat. You guys all have made some great observations. You know, his demeanor, just everything. I'm going to answer that as everything y'all think it is. It is. You know, and what's so fascinating right now, we're 3 weeks going on 4th week of trial starting tomorrow. And now we have this excellent testimony to compare this to. So as we're sitting here watching this video again, in our minds, we're going, wait, people already testified and, you know, dismissed, you know, made this guy look like the liar that he is, because so much of his story is now crumbling. And it's interesting because everything you're pointing out with this car interview and everything we're seeing and feeling, is now playing out in the courtroom. So it's extra fascinating to get to go back to this and see it. And, I love reading everybody's comments because everybody has like great insight into this as well.
Laura, you got anything?
This one's hard, but when you first saw Paul, you said you tried to flip him over. Was he laying on his back or on his stomach?
Just like he
Just like he is. So you weren't
honest.
able to move him. Okay.
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Now, that's really interesting. Because Paul, however he's positioned right here, when the sled got there and the sheriffs got there, is the reason, or excuse me, is the position that Alec left him in. Yet he tried to move his body after witnessing his brain next to him. And as he tried to move his body, his cell phone dropped out. So, of course, he picked it up to try to do something, quote unquote. But then he thought, well, maybe not. And then he put it down. The question is, where did he put it? In my mind. And, your son's deceased. His body parts are laying there. It's caused you as much emotional trauma as you've described here. And so you're going to take his pulse and you're going to roll him over. And then when his cell phone drops out, rather than hug your child and grieve for the loss of your child, you might as well pick his phone up and think about doing something. He put the phone back in his pocket. That's even worse. I see the chat here. He put the phone back in his pocket, or he was sitting on his butt. I'm seeing two different answers here. So we don't know. I don't know. Hey, I just don't, that just doesn't sound right.
Chris, for me,
Mm-hmm.
the most telling two words of this whole interview for me
Mm-hmm.
are the two words that he said. I called 911 pretty much right away.
Right.
So to me, that's the leakage of the truth, because as we know, these murders took place about 8:50 p.m. and there's that whole hour because he doesn't even call 911 till 10, right? And of course we know he changed his clothes, took a shower, left a wet towel and a puddle on the floor of the bathroom. As we heard the testimony from the housekeeper this last week, he got a lot done in that hour. But, I wonder what this investigator was thinking when he hears Murdaugh say, I pretty much called right away.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much, Abigail. That's exactly right. I mean, so I guess I come from a tainted, right? We come from a tainted position because we've experienced the death of a child. And I can tell you, it's insanity. And those of you who've been with us for a long time know that you guys as well, many people in our TIR family have experienced the same thing. And it's in this, but here he's describing, Paul's body parts being next to his son, which I can't even comprehend what that must have looked like. But then to take that right into, and I picked up his phone, but then I was going to call his friends and tell his friends, right? I don't know. It's just, it's not lining up. Let me continue.
Here's a thought on Wait, just real quick before you run that, keep running it.
Yeah.
Here's a thought. Now that we know that he's on that Snapchat video, and did Alex see Paul record all three of them in those dog kennels, 5 minutes before the murder took place, and he tucks it in his head, and then after the murders, he's trying to get that phone? Did he know he was being recorded and he was thinking, "Oh, I'll just get that phone and erase that"? We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. But he introduced it. So that was enough right there to start a conversation. If there was ever a phone discovered, i.e. Maggie's, then, well, of course, I picked up the phone. I told you I picked up the phone that night, 1 o'clock in the morning. I told you I picked up Paul's phone. I
Yeah,
may or may
and then it wasn't until August, it was a couple months after the murders, where SLED came back to him and said, "Hey, we've got you on video 5 minutes down at the dog kennels with Maggie and Paul." And it was after that he had to be going, "Uh-oh." And that's where he went back to the housekeeper and was talking about the clothes. This is where he's putting pressure on these, this poor staff, and trying to secure his alibi even further, because he knows he's on video.
Yeah, and I like this one from Kathy. He does not like the girl in the back. He does not like that sheriff in the back. I totally agree with you, Kathy, 100%. He is so condescending to her. You can hear it where, I think earlier where he says, like what? That question, right? I mean, it's like, wow, okay. Let's because he also introduces the shotgun, as we know. But he said, I think he messes up when he says, "I told the dispatcher," because we're going to hear the 911 call here. Now, if there's a second 911 tape that I haven't heard, please keep me honest. But in this particular 911 call, he does not introduce the shotgun.
And did he help Maggie a lot out here with the animals?
He helped everybody with everything.
Okay, so it was kind of routine for him to be out here as well in the evening?
This place is his absolute passion.
Okay.
I tried to turn him, and then I checked him, and I think I already knew, but I checked him.
You see, that's just kind of a discombobulated word salad. I think I kind of, but I already knew, but I checked him. Hey, he's still trying to tie in this phone concept here.
And when you first pulled into the property, did you come from this direction where all our police cars are, or which way did you come in?
I went to the house,
Okay.
and then I came from the house
This way?
straight here. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I mean, where my vehicle was parked is probably
Is where it was. Okay.
well, no, maybe not exactly, but it was pretty close, because I
Okay.
came back the same route
That's right, because you went back to get your shotgun.
when I came back.
Now, she dropped that on him to see where he's going to go with it, and he didn't disagree. See, he's thinking, and you'll notice that even in court, when you see him in court, he's constantly, doing this, like, He's constantly moving, in an affirmative, like, okay, I'm thinking, this is his thinking, but look at his eyes. He's looking over to the left at the SLED agent to see what's in his notebook, what's on his notebook. See that? He's clearly looking at the SLED agent. There's even a better one.
All right.
He's like, man, is this waterbed going to be sold or what here? I'm working overtime here.
Can't think of anything else right now, but we'll certainly be in touch.
Thank y'all for everything y'all are doing.
Yes, sir. So just to kind
Okay, so again, compliment the dispatcher, compliment the investigators in the car. I don't know if they've done much other than talk to him and started to call in the cavalry to take a look at his son and his sweet wife.
of let you know what's going to go on.
And by the way, this would be the time where he's got to be thinking, you know what, I should call all my lawyer friends and have them over, and we should have a conference about what we're going to talk about before SLED comes in and interviews us again. Let's get our story
We'll
straight.
be out here for quite some time. The coroner will take custody of Paul and Maggie.
Can I answer that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. What? No, we're finished. Let me come out there where I'll be here when he gets here. No, don't let him come up here. Okay, yeah. I think we're about done. All right, thank you. I'm sorry.
Buster, get in here. Okay.
Yes, sir. I dropped my card.
We'll get you another one.
Sorry.
I'll get you one.
Well, that was a quick emotional burst.
Here you go.
Thank you.
So the coroner will come over and talk to you. They'll do the autopsy and everything, and then go from there.
Thank you.
But we'll come to you before we leave.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Rutland.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Here, you want this water?
Oh, yes, please. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, the next part of this is going to be the 911 call. And remember, he said that he told the dispatcher about the shotgun. Okay, now this is his call. I don't know if there's a second one, but this is the one that's available. And I had to put this picture up because it's just audio.
Hampton County 911, where's your emergency?
This is Alex Murdaugh at 4147 Moselle Road. I need the police to ambulance immediately.
I knew they were gone, quote unquote, but I need a police and an ambulance immediately. Now, I know this guy's been a prosecutor and he's got 2 dead people in front of him. You might as well call the paramedics. Instead of coming up right away.
My wife and child just got badly.
Okay, you said 4147 Moselle Road in Allison?
Sir?
You said 4147 Moselle Road in Allison?
Yes, sir. 4147 Moselle Road.
Stay on the line with me, okay? Yes, sir. Stay on the line with me, okay?
Hello?
I'm still here. Stay on the line. I'm still here, okay? Carlton, I have an Alex Murdaugh on the line, caller from 4147 Moselle Road. He's advising that his wife and child was shot. Mr. Murdaugh, go ahead and talk to Carlton.
It's 4147 Moselle Road. I've been up to it now. It's bad.
Okay.
Conner County Communications.
Carlton, I have an Alex Murdaugh on the line, caller from 4147 Moselle Road. He's advising that his wife and child was shot.
Okay, and sir, give me the address again.
What, Karen? Honey? Did
No, I didn't say anything. I'm anticipating the next line. No,
Okay.
Go ahead and play it. Go ahead and play it.
Sorry.
It's 4147 Moselle Road. I've been up to it now. It's bad.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay, and are they breathing?
Now, in that particular comment, I've been up to it now. It's bad. Made it sound like he wasn't there yet when he was calling the 911, but that he was approaching it. Whereas in his statement, he got there, rolled him over, saw the body parts, looked at his, ran to Maggie, but then he changed it and came back, and the phone thing. But in this call, it sounds like, as if he's arriving and discovering the bodies and calling 911.
No, ma'am.
Okay, and you said it's your wife and your son?
My wife and my son.
Are they in a vehicle?
No, ma'am. They're on the ground out at my kennel. Oh.
Okay, and did you see anyone? Okay, is he breathing at all?
No, nobody.
Is she? Okay, do you see anything? Do you see anyone in the area?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
What color is your house on the outside? What color is your house on the outside?
It's white. You can't see it from the road.
Okay, is it a house or a mobile home?
It's a house.
Okay, and what is your...
As if she should have known. It's a house, by golly. We're the Murdaugh.
No.
We're the Murdaughs.
No. Let me interpret what that really meant.
Okay.
A mobile home? Of course I would never live in a mobile home. I'm Alex Murdaugh. It's a house. It's an expensive house. I'm sorry I laughed. Again, there's a whole lot of theater and drama going on here, manufactured. And, it's like he's outraged. He would even be asked the question, is it a mobile home? At the most critical time in your life where you need 911, where your wife and son just were killed, and that's just like a natural reflex. Like, of course I don't live in a mobile home. Okay, I'm done.
Well, and
I was just like, are you
I always
kidding
love
me?
your commentary
Who has
because
that
you're
reaction?
targeted. It's beautiful. Well, what's interesting also is this 911 call makes it sound like he's discovering them. All right.
Yeah, it makes it sound like he's driving up and seeing this as he's talking on the phone.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the read I'm getting. Am I missing something here? It sounds like he's pulling up. Oh my gosh. And he's going up there. It's his family. They've been murdered. And I'm calling 911, discovering them. When his statement is, I get up there, Paul's dead. She's, I run towards Maggie. I flip him over. Well, wait a minute. The phone falls out, but I put it back. Okay. And I guess I need to call 911. Okay. But we know that time frame is discombobulated now based on the testimony that's been put out.
Because it was pretty much an hour later. Pretty much.
Yeah. Even if it took Ellie a long time to get there, the dispatcher did a good job. Typically, you keep them on the line till Ellie gets there because it's a homicide and you don't know where the shooter is. But somehow he's got, go ahead.
And here's another interesting thing too. The 911 dispatcher, you can tell she's good, and meaning she's done this many times. So she knows if it's, something super serious, death, gunshot, whatever, she kind of goes back to the basics like, okay, what color is your house, right? Meaning the person is so much in shock, so distraught on the phone, you can't think, you can't remember your address. I'm standing outside, it's a white house, right? Because she just wants to get emergency vehicles there as quickly and succinctly as possible, So I just thought that was kind of interesting. She's acting like she's asking him questions like he should be a stunned, in shock survivor. And clearly he's, you know, the instigator manipulator of this whole traumatic event.
You know, that was so good. I got to play it again. I'm sorry.
Road. He's advising that his wife and child was shot.
Okay, and sir, give me the address again.
It's 4147 Moselle Road. I've been up to it now. It's bad.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay, and are they breathing?
no, ma'am.
Okay, and you said it's your wife and your son?
My wife and my son.
Are they in a vehicle?
No, ma'am. They're on the ground out at my kennel.
Okay, and did you see anyone? Okay, is he breathing at all?
No, nobody.
Is she? Okay, do you see anything? Do you see anyone in the area?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
What color is your house on the outside? What color is your house on the outside?
It's white. You can't see it from the road.
Okay, is it a house or a mobile home?
It's a house.
Okay, and what is your name?
My name is Alex Murdaugh.
I'm sorry.
Okay, and did you hear anything, or did you come home and find them?
No, ma'am. I've been gone. I just came back.
Okay, and was anyone else supposed to be at your house?
No, ma'am.
Okay, remember, we're
Please
listening
hurry.
to the shotgun.
We're getting somebody out there to you.
Oh. Oh, man. Oh.
Okay, what is her name?
Maggie and Paul.
Maggie is her name?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And please hurry.
We're getting somebody out there to you. Me asking you these questions, don't slow them down, okay? And you sure they're not breathing? Is he moving at all, your son? I know you said that she was shot, but what about your son?
Nobody. They're not. Neither one of them's moving.
What is your telephone number?
So at what point would he be rolling Paul over while on the phone with dispatch?
And does anything look out of place?
Ma'am, I not particularly, really, no, ma'am.
Okay.
Nothing looks out of place, right?
Okay.
There's a door opening.
All right, I'm going back down there.
So I'm going back down there. He went to, do you hear the door of the vehicle open? And this correlates to the testimony of the door and the engine, I think, in the Suburban. But listen real carefully. Just before he says, I'm going back down there, you hear a door close.
Maggie is her name?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And please hurry.
We're getting somebody out there to you. Me asking you these questions, don't slow them down, okay? And you sure they're not breathing?
I don't think he ran to the house. I don't know if he could run that far back to the house, because you would hear the phone. He's on the phone with the dispatcher, and you would hear him running and panting.
Is he moving at all, your son? I know you said that she was shot, but what about your son?
Nobody's. They're not. Neither one of them's moving.
What is your telephone number? And does anything look out of place?
Ma'am, not particularly, really, no, ma'am.
Okay.
He's not out of breath.
Okay.
That's a door opening. That's a door closing.
All right, I'm going back down there.
I'm going back down there. But remember, he talked about his truck being parked right in the interview with the sled agents, right about where it was, but not exactly, he said. And then the sheriff slipped him up by saying, "Oh, you mean when you went to get the shoddy?" And he bought it. He bought it. But now this tape, he's not going to, there's no mention of a shotgun. So they locked him in on the lie. Good work. There goes the door again. I don't know what that is. But you hear the key.
Are they close, ma'am?
Yeah, they've been en route with you ever since you've got on the phone with me. I have multiple people coming out there to you. Okay, can you do me a favor, Mr. Murdaugh, and turn on the flashers on your car so that way they can see where the kennels are?
21. Central Zone now station 1A. You will need station 15.
Do you have your flashers on for?
Yeah, that sounds like messages hitting his phone.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like he's got, is it the same phone or does he have two phones? Because he's on a phone with the dispatcher. So does he have a phone in this hand and a phone in this hand? Let's go back and listen to that for a second, because we'd have to go back and listen to his interview when he got some text messages or a call coming in to the phone that's reset.
People coming out there to you.
Yeah, those are messages coming in. Sounds like that.
Okay, can you do me a favor, Mr. Murdaugh, and turn on the flashers on your car so that way they can see where the kennels are?
21. Central Zone now station 1A. You will need station 15.
Do you have your flashers on for me, Mr. Murdaugh?
Yes.
Okay. I don't want you to touch them at all, okay? I don't know if you've already touched them, but I don't want you to touch them just in case they can get any kind of evidence, okay?
I'd already touched them trying to get to see if they were breathing.
Okay. Well, I just don't want you to move anything just in case they can get any kind of evidence, okay?
Oh. Ma'am, I'm going to call. I need to call some of my family.
Okay.
On this.
Well, do me a favor.
Okay, now, what do you think, Karen?
Why wouldn't you stay on with dispatch until the first units arrived, knowing how grave this is? It's almost like, well, okay, dispatch has everybody coming, but I gotta hang up. I gotta call my family. I mean, this has been about him from day one, from the word go. What about his two family members laying on the ground? How about we make sure that first responders get there? It's on a very remote road. There's nobody else around. Well, there is another little house down the road, not his, but let's make sure that police and help comes. What's more important? So I think that's very telling. This, like, hey, I got to get off the phone. I got to get my family over here. Well, I don't know. That's just my opinion. What do you think?
No, and he hasn't introduced the shotgun yet to the dispatcher. He's going to call his family.
Favor for me whenever you see the officer or the medics, because they're all coming to you.
Absolutely.
Okay, but we have them come in, turn on the flashes on your vehicle so they can see you. Okay. You got the flashes on for me?
I do.
Okay. All right. Just whenever you see them.
Okay.
How old is your son?
22.
Okay. All right. We're getting them out there to you, okay?
And I will answer if you call.
All right.
Did
Okay.
he just say, I'll answer if you call?
Yes.
So he is hanging up with dispatch to call family.
Right. He's out of there. I'm calling, remember, and well, what's interesting though, did anybody hear him say, I'm going to the house to get a shotgun?
No.
No, that's a
Mm-mm.
that's a mistake. And see, that was I think that maybe we'll hear the DA talk about that one coming up, but they're going to play this tape. They haven't played this tape yet that I was aware of in the court yet. But so the shotgun, the only reason, the shotgun's in play here is because one, he volunteered it, and he also volunteered the cell phone. And of course, we know that Maggie's phone is gone. It was discovered, away from the body. Paul's phone was discovered on his body, or at least laying next to it, or something close to that. And then we haven't heard from the ME yet to see if we know there was a close contact wound of stippling. We heard about that. We know there's gunshot residue. What else? What other some of the highlights this week, Karen, that you picked up on?
Well, there were so many, as you all know, if you've been following this. Well, since we're coming up on 2 hours here, let me just do a very, very brief overview of just a couple of things. Are you good with that, Chris?
Yeah, hon. Go ahead.
In time. Okay. So, we're moving off of the night of in terms of the 911 call. What we saw this week, which was most stunning, is how Alec tried to plant narratives and about the night of the murders. And just, the two ones that stood out to me, the housekeeper, Blanca Simpson. Wow, we were all riveted to every word. We were hanging on to her every word, what she was describing, her conversation with Maggie, how Maggie called her in a hunting room, made a cup of coffee, closed the door. Alec was in a different room on the other side of the house. And here she's confessing, oh my goodness, I'm so upset about this $30 million lawsuit from the boat wreck, and all that. We don't have that kind of money. And, she wishes the whole thing would go away. And, that was incredible. But even more even more important perhaps is the housekeeper's statement where we go back to the close and what Alec was doing from the time of the shoot, 8:50 time of the shooting until he called 911. And where did his clothes go? Where did the outfit he had on clearly would have blood and other stuff on it? And, you know, the housekeeper says that, you know, that she was asked if she remembered him wearing the Vineyard Vines shirt the evening of the murders. And then he's trying to, you know, make her think that that's what he was wearing. You know, I was wearing the shirt that day. Well, she didn't buy it. She didn't say anything to him when he confronted her. She knew darn well because she fixed his collar, which was, you know, on his way out the door that morning. And she remembers the sea foam color of the shirt. And it wasn't Vineyard Vines. And, you know, down to the shoes he was wearing. And so that was very, very telling. And then the other incident we heard about, the former caregiver, Miss Shelley, Michelle Smith, and where she is, Alex tries to convince her about the time that he spent over at his parents' house the night of the murders. And he was trying to tell her, don't you remember I was there 30 to 40 minutes? Well, no, she recalled 15, maybe 20 minutes. And that was more in line with the vehicular data that SLED had on his Chevy Suburban that was parked there. So, you know, we see him trying to do cleanup after the murder in terms of, you know, planting narratives, intimidating people. I want to go back just to make a real quick point. We talked about how back on this video we just showed of the interview in the car the night of the murders, how he snapped at that female officer. I think you could make a pretty strong case that perhaps Alec didn't care for women in maybe, you know, outside of the home type of idea. I'm just making that a point. I think it goes right in line with his narcissistic personality. And, you know, it's you hear how he treats people. And of course, we've seen from how he the incredible parade of witnesses on the stand that have just painted this picture of this man's desperation and misdeeds, and of course all the financial crimes, alleged crimes. He hasn't been convicted of them, but you know, the alleged crimes, financial crimes, his self-admitted opioid addiction, and all that. So, you know, there is one other thing. There was so much there, and of course, starting tomorrow morning, we're going to get even more this week. Prosecution's going to be wrapping up. I think we were told by midweek. Defense says they need about 5 days to go through their material and witnesses. I want to go, but since we're going back to the beginning, in terms of the 911 call the night of the murders, June 7th, 2021, when Alex Murdaugh's wife, Maggie, 52 years old, and his 22-year-old son, Paul, their lives were taken. There was, I think, this incident kind of encapsulates a lot of what we need to know about the Murdaugh family. Right before this trial started, there was a large portrait, a painting, hanging up in the courthouse. And this was of Alex Murdaugh's late grandfather, who was the 14th Circuit solicitor. This gentleman's name was Randolph Buster Murdaugh Jr. And the judge, Judge Clifton Newman, by the way, gotta love this judge. He's incredible. He ordered the removal of the painting. They took down the painting of Alex Murdaugh's grandfather from the courthouse before the trial began. And if that isn't an actual physical display of, you know, the crumbling, the dismantling of the Murdaugh name by the grandson, Alex, you know, what a metaphor for what we're seeing, you know, play out in the trial.
Yeah, no, and when we were there, I mean, and I don't know if you guys know this or not, but, you know, Karen and I lived in South Carolina for about 5 years, and up in the Mount Pleasant area at the time. And so we're familiar with this area as a whole. And the culture here, I mean, the people are just just the most amazing, loving people you can get to know. And, you know, I mean, we met some pretty interesting names around this area. I mean, the Porsches and a variety of other predominant names. And we'd not, you know, and of course, you know, I'm not from here, so I don't know the name of Murdaugh, but I do know, and we have experienced this culture here, and it's kind of like the area that they were in that area over there had it, you know, at some point where he was living and his grandfather was living, and its heyday was quite the area. And you can tell he was living off of the coattails of his family name. I don't really, I mean, his son got booted out of law school for cheating. The one still with us. The other son gets into a, you know, boating accident, kills an amazing 19-year-old up and coming young lady, injures the rest of the boat. I mean, one guy broke his jaw, another one, you know, another girl, her hand was severely injured. They're getting sued for all of that. Maggie makes a comment to the effect of, look, you know, $30 million. We go over to the house in Edisto Island and look at the beach house and walk around there for a little bit. And it's, you know, the dynasty, it just seemed like it was almost a facade. And, you know, the financial problems that he was having with the addictions and his son, those problems, the other boy, there are other cases that their name is, you know, tied into that are now being reopened. And there's just a tremendous amount of mishigosh, as we'll call it, around them. And it's really interesting. And by the way, the beach house at the time, it was purchased for, I think it was like $400,000, right, Karen?
Yeah, they bought it in 2003 for $400,000. While it's a nice house, in today's market, it's not considered overly fancy that a home that generational wealth owns. I'm not saying that's just a fact. And yeah, I think the descriptions of their wealth, you know, were accurate. It's hard to know how much wealth they had that Alec squandered, that's gone, because we know he allegedly stole money from his clients and his law firm, et cetera, huge, you know, to the tune of close to $9 million from what we've heard. And, you know, it's hard to know how much their personal assets were worth. It's hard to know what he would be potentially inheriting as one of 4 kids from his mom, Libby, who, you know, she's still alive, even though she's got very advanced Alzheimer's. It's a little bit hard to know. And, you know, I described that area as that family was big fish in a little pond. And, you know, and somebody said it very well here in chat. You know, the first generation makes it, and by maybe the 3rd generation, you know, it's gone. And the beach house was, there's some discrepancy if it was sold yet. There's a sold sign on there, you know, there's, you know, the realtor has said it's, you know, in the process of, it's not a multi-million-dollar beach house. And you guys got to understand. Oh, wait a minute.
Go ahead.
In today's market, $1 million along the beach doesn't really get you as much as it did 20, 30, 40 years ago. That's just reality. That's just a fact. But anyway, beyond the beach house and beyond those dollars, it's hard to know. But as far as tarnishing the family name, clearly this guy has done it. to a large degree. And, I just want to make one comment. There's a really great book. Chris and I read it together not long ago. It's called Ego is the Enemy. And, it just talks about that this narcissism and the ego, people become successful and they become their own worst enemies. They do a self-destruction, they circle the drain, and it has to get so bad before it stops. And Alex Murdaugh is responsible for his own undoing, clearly. All the collateral damage is what we all are watching, and is so horrific to watch as it plays out on the stage of the state-sponsored theater, otherwise known as the court trial.
Yeah, and this is a really good point here. Alex ruined the family, but think how much tourism the town will get now. Yeah, you know what? That is a good point. It's a good point. But, the fact that the family name is, Paul was a man's man, quote unquote, from dad, and he couldn't punch back. And it seems like the grandfather, the picture being in the courthouse with the judge saying, take it down. You got to love that judge, not having headstones speaks volumes. That was certainly interesting, wasn't it?
It was, and also we saw Randolph Murdaugh the first. We saw his grave at that same cemetery. There was a small section with a Murdaugh headstone, and it was the first. So it was Alex great-grandfather. And to be honest, I was sort of expecting at the cemetery, just with the reputation and everything we've heard about the Murdaugh family, that there was going to be a huge section, and the family members, Maggie and Paul, would be in that. And we were really surprised. There was one large headstone. It had the great-grandfather and the great-grandmother's graves there. You could see because it's a 1940. And by the way, his great-grandfather, Randolph Murdaugh the first, he died in a mysterious way. He drove his car onto some train tracks in the middle of the night, and a train came and hit the car. And I guess there was some mystery back in 1940 surrounding that. They thought it may have been a suicide. Ultimately, it was ruled an accident. Nevertheless, at that cemetery, that Maggie and Paul's graves were also near Randolph the third. That would be Alex's father, who passed away 3 days after the murders. And, Chris and I were like, well, did somebody order a large headstone? And what is the plan for this to honor these people? So we don't know. We don't know if there's ever going to be a headstone. Who knows? But, there's a story to be told as well at the cemetery.
Yeah, there is definitely a story, and there are many more stories to be told. This is right out of, I think everybody would agree, right out of central casting in Hollywood. This is, there are going to be a lot of books and a lot of stories about this one. And I can't wait to hear what Cousin Eddie, when everybody's calling him Cousin Eddie. I hope the DA puts him on to talk about, the shooting, because if you guys get a chance, go look at our video when we went out there about a couple of days ago and showed everybody where that took place. I know a family with similar status, and they were equally insufferable. Yeah. Any other thoughts, sweetheart?
I think we're all going to stay tuned this week for the next unfolding chapter in the drama, and we will come back with you to give our opinions and our insights as the trial continues.
All right, everybody. So as we sign off here this evening, we want to thank each and every one of our subscribers, our members, our Patreon members, We are just so grateful to each and every one of you. And all we ask, all that Karen and I ask, is just hit that subscribe button, hit that share, tell your friends, tweet us out, put us on Instagram, Facebook, wherever, because it's because of you that we're growing the way we're growing. We are grateful for that. And it's also that support allows us to keep going to these areas like this and hopefully give you content that you find is valuable and honest and truthful. Go see that podcast with Mandy. It's called The Murdaugh Murders. She does an outstanding job there. I love helping anybody that needs help, hit her button and subscribe as well as others. I have an abundance attitude, as Napoleon Hill says, right? As the mind of man conceives and believes, the mind of man achieves. Continue to think good things, and good things will always happen to you. God bless you all. Have a great evening, and we'll see you on the next one. Have a good one.
Hard working every day, I'm stressed out 24/7, babe. No timeouts, wish we could fly away. You and I go to our favorite place. Oh yeah, make special memories together. I'll be your company now and forever. I say we fly away, you and me, go to our favorite place. Feeling the sun on my face in Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. I need a summer breeze, some fresh air to put my mind at ease. No cares. You wanna come with me? Me and you go to our favorite tree. Are you ready now? We jump on a plane now. We're taking away. Yeah, we're taking away. Don't hesitate now. We're taking away. Yeah, we're taking away.